everybody. Welcome to the 5th season of the Stadium Journey podcast. Can you believe it? 5 years, and nobody said it would last. We showed them, didn't we? You can find all of our stadium reviews, news items, and other features on the mothership, the website, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on all of our social media channels. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're at Stadium Journey. And you can find the audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever your favorite place is to find podcasts. Wherever it is, you can find us there. Video simulcast of this podcast and our other ones can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page, and find our classic back catalog at vocnation.com. And remember, if you're watching this at a later time and you want to be part of our live studio audience, you can find us recording live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at danlaw.tv. And the gang is all here tonight. Dave Cotney's here. Follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez, he is on the internet at Ballpark Hunter. Dan Calachico, the other guy, is here. You can follow him at danlaw83. And I am Paul Baker. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. And tonight we are very happy to be joined by our old friend. And I don't mean old as in he's old. I mean old as in he's been with us since the beginning of the podcast, Mike Hogan. Mike has become our Buck Henry of sorts. If any of you are old enough to get that reference for the not ready for primetime players. Mike, welcome.
I hope I'm not as dry as he is. That's an outstanding reference.
For those of you, for our younger listeners, in the infancy days of Saturday Night Live, they wanted somebody predictable. So, I think it was either the first episode or the last episode of every season, Buck Henry would be the guest host.
So you've now called me old and predictable. Is that what I'm getting?
Just
I'm going to shut up now for the rest of the season.
like Mark Viquez, you're just telling stories and digging a hole. It's just digging a hole.
I've got to learn from Mark and stop talking at a certain point, right?
Yeah. I'm kidding.
All right. So Mike, I want to ask you. We've got an elephant in the room here. You're wearing an Expos hat. We just talked about the Tampa Bay Montreal X-Rays on our last show, and so do you have an inside scoop being from Montreal, or is it just?
I'm not from Montreal, but I grew up an Expos fan. Like when I was a kid, baseball was my first, second, third, and fourth sport, and my Expos were the team of my youth, the Rusty Staub era, like way back at Jerry Park. And I know you guys talk stadiums, and on one of my previous appearances here. You said that we would talk about Jerry Park at some point, so I came hoping that discussion would happen. So I've got the old tricolor Expo hat on.
Hey, as Rod Stewart said, tonight's the night.
There we go, beauty. Love it, love that ballpark. It was awful by Major League standpoint, but when you're a kid, and I still freak out millennials when I say this. The first game that I saw at Jerry Park featured Mays and McCovey and the Giants. It was 71. And neither one of them started. They both pinch hit and both had pinch hit singles. I didn't remember that, but I looked that up on Baseball Almanac last year because I was able to figure out which date it was and went back. It was a Sunday afternoon after a Saturday night game, so they gave the old guys the day off.
Isn't the old guys, huh?
Isn't the history of the Expos just so not possible today?
Well, they should have been the Buffalo Expos, right? There's no way the team should have ended up in Montreal in the first place. What was that pesky thing they needed? A stadium. They didn't have that. So they were able to reclaim this minor league, terrible ballpark and turn it into a pseudo major league facility. They were supposed to have it for a year before they built a new one. And John Drapeau said, okay, we got the team. Now we're not going to build the stadium. So they didn't until the Olympics came around in 76, and then they moved in there in 77. So it was a lot of years at a really bad ballpark. And not everybody remembers this because first base was facing west. If you were looking at third base, they had to stop the game for about 20 minutes every night as the sun set. So a first baseman didn't get killed by a throw from the left side of the diamond.
Jeez.
Wasn't it also built by a Danish company? The Danish company Lego.
It was yeah. The amazing thing was when they played their first home game in 68, 69, 60, I can't remember. I'm old now. But the first game, they didn't have all of the permanent seats in. So down the lines, they were putting up folding chairs. So people, if they were in 117, section 117, they'd go up to the row and then they'd have to count in however many seats there were because they didn't have all of the seats affixed yet. They hadn't put them all in. So the people who saw the first game, a lot of them sat in folding chairs down the lines.
Yeah,
what a fantastic.
And how much of an improvement was Olympic Stadium? Like really was it? I went to the Canadian
Maybe
Baseball
first,
Hall.
right?
I went to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and of course they have a one of the seats from Olympic Stadium, one of those little scoop deals, and I took a picture and sent it to the guys. They're like, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "That is a seat from Olympic Stadium."
I remember those seats. I remember them.
It was an awful ballpark in terms of aesthetics. But when that place was getting 50 grand, when the Expos were in pennant races in 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, that place jumped. It was interesting for a baseball crowd, not in Milwaukee, but they had an Oompah band in the concourse level. And like the Happy Wanderer, that ridiculous, goofy song was kind of the theme song. They would play it every night. The Valderie, Valdera. They would play that in the stadium, and the crowd went nuts every time they played it. And we got stuck in a rain delay there. It was hours and hours and hours. It was in September. It was like a 1 o'clock game that ended at midnight kind of deal. And we just kept going from our seats to the Oompah section. And there was this, German band with the tuba going and Lederhosen. And then they'd start the game again. We'd go back into our seats and then it'd start raining again. And back to the Carlsberg Pavilion, sponsored by the beer company. And, okay, gee, I got to have another beer. And, that's what it was like as an Expo fan at the Big O. But when they were drawing 2,000-3,000 people a night, oh boy, you could hear conversations. A solid base hit would echo around the stadium for 2 or 3 minutes. Like it was bad. It was tough because it's a good ball club that had an ownership that just wanted the team out of there.
Well, the young people, I don't think they fully grasp, what kind of a following the Expos had. I mean, even in those bad years, you roll Gary Carter out to, sign a few autographs or have a bobblehead or something, you get 30,000.
Yeah, it was crazy.
At a time when they were getting 5.
And it didn't take much. Like, people loved Gary Carter because when he broke in, he was a right fielder. They had a guy named Barry Foote behind the plate, and they thought the best way to get both of those guys in the lineup, and Foote was a really good defensive catcher, was to turn Carter into a right fielder. And the problem with Gary Carter in right field is he didn't realize there were fences. And he just ran after everything, and he'd keep running into them. And they thought that this 5-star prospect that was coming up, that it would eventually be their catcher, was going to kill himself. So he stopped playing right field, and they put him behind the plate, and I think traded Foote, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, and the other thing about the glory days in terms of the fandom, Rusty Staub learned how to. He took French lessons his first year, and started to be able to answer French reporters' questions in very, very rudimentary French, and that turned him into a god in Montreal. He was their most popular player. He was their best player by far. And that just took him to a completely different level. Le Grand Orange, the big orange in Montreal with his flaming red hair. So it was, he was the first real superstar in Montreal. And when he got traded to the Mets, it killed a lot of fans, just especially. I think I was 9 when it happened. It was like, they traded Rusty.
But you got Ken Singleton, so it wasn't too bad of a trade.
And Tim Foley and
Jorgensen, yes.
And the problem was they traded Ken Singleton for what? Mike Torres and Rich Cotton. How did that go?
I tell you, yeah. But I growing up, I used to always hear Rusty Staub talk about his time in Montreal, and he loved the city. that wasn't the case for a lot of visiting teams. They weren't huge fans of the language
they didn't like
barrier.
the fact that it was French.
Yeah.
And, in the early 80s and mid 80s, we can't get ESPN up here. What's this TSN? Why are they showing me curling highlights? What is this? And, but Montreal, man, as a town, I don't know why you wouldn't want to visit Montreal.
No.
Especially if you're a single guy in your 20s as a ball player.
Yes. Yes.
Tim Capper in the chat says the Big O is a bad stadium, period. It doesn't matter the sport. I cringe going there.
Did you go when it was jumping though? That's any ballpark. The Sky Dome in Toronto is not an aesthetically nice ballpark, but when you had 50,000 people in there,
they're all quiet.
Hey, go watch.
Oh hell, I've been to Fenway Park when there's only a few hundred people there, and it's the same thing. It's
Well, you talk about bad stadiums hopping. I've been to the Vet in Philly mostly when it was bad, but when there was a good game and they were kicking the Phillies, you could literally feel the stadium moving with everybody hopping. So
Three River Stadium, the old Bush in St. Louis, those cutouts, they were all terrible stadiums, but when the crowd got into it, it was a jumping place to be.
Best nachos I've ever had.
It should be. Look at Guaranteed Rate Field the other night. Everybody was dressed in black, and the White Sox won 12-6. Everybody was jumping. I wanted to be there. It looked so exciting. Not
John Cusack's tickets.
John Cusack, yeah. I don't necessarily like people that root for two teams like that, but John Cusack's been on the record that he roots for both teams. So,
also, just real quick, if you want to gatekeep somebody, don't get caught on camera.
Yeah,
especially when he makes you look like a fool.
I think John Cusack, made a point. Hey, I could name everybody from the '83 American League Championship Series that was on the Sox. Can you?
No, I can't. I don't know anything. You're bad.
You're ignorant.
So what do you think about this? I don't even know what to call this idea. Is it even an idea?
I love it. I love the X-rays.
This shared. Like I said before, it almost seems like you're the kid of divorced parents, or you're gonna go here one day, you're gonna go there the other day. What do you think of that idea?
I am the Montreal Expos.
If it gets baseball back in Montreal on a full-time basis, if Montrealers show up 30 grand a night, 35, 40 grand a night to see a team that's not really theirs, and I think that's asking a hell of a lot. But if they can show that they can get even 25,000 in to see they're not their team play, that's a major step for the Montreal Baseball Project trying to land a team. They've got guys who are interested in buying. They've got guys who are interested in building a stadium. Now it's just Major League Baseball who has said, and it might just be lip service, but they've said they're interested in returning to Montreal. It was just so many bad things lining up in a row. The Canadian dollar against the U.S. in that era as well. It was sad to watch, as you would see. Oh, we got Pedro Oh, there goes Pedro Martinez. Oh, here's Larry Oh, we just lost our best Canadian player ever. Marquise Grissom and all of these guys who have gone through there and were just in for a contract and out for a contract. So, with dedicated ownership, it really is a very strong, historically strong baseball market, going back to the Royals and the Dodger relationship, the Jackie Robinson era, stuff like that. So it is a really good baseball city. It's just that the ownership was it couldn't have been much worse.
Yeah. And if you dive into it, the way that Jeffrey Loria just.
And he went to Miami and totally redeemed himself.
He hosed his partners. I'm not sure how that guy.
They give him another team.
I'm not sure how he got out of town. I'm not sure how he's still alive. Really. Between hosing all those minor league, all those minority partners, where basically it was in the agreement that you either had to kick in when he made a cash call, or you lose a chunk of the team. So he just kept making cash calls, and that's how he ended up gaining this massive control. So then going to Miami and hosing the whole city,
How did baseball let him back in?
Definitely not.
Did you not see
money?
the movie?
Money.
I blame the Red Sox.
That's
I
it.
blame the Red Sox. They needed to give the John Henry went to the Red Sox.
This is it.
We need somebody to hang out here down in Florida. So
it's the Red Sox money. Fault. It's always money. It's always money and the Red Sox fault.
How many billionaires would like a nice shiny toy of a Major League Baseball team? You tell me they couldn't have found somebody else, especially in the Miami market. Oh, we'd love to go to Miami. Here, can we find a billionaire to buy a team? I don't think that would be that difficult with the amount of massive egos who are making $1 billion.
John
Middleton. If there is one fan base though that I think that has been hosed almost, if not more than the Expos fan base, it's the Miami fan base. The only reason I would say not is because they got World Series out of it somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But from like who would you say is the biggest Marlin of all time? Jeff Conine because he's been there 4 years, right? Like it was just buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell.
Yeah, you're right. Who would be on their Mount Rushmore of players?
Jeff Conine and a bunch of Ferentz signs.
And Darren Dalton.
Darren Dalton was there for 10 minutes.
But he did a thing.
Giancarlo Stanton might be. He was a homegrown prospect that they just traded away, which makes sense now. But
how about Steve Bartman?
I still blame the shortstop for that.
Instead of Chicago giving him a ring, they should have given him the team as a token of sorry, we ruined your life. Here's the team.
Well, I don't see that happening. That's a little far-fetched now.
Well,
But Mike, the all-time greatest stadium journey surprise moment, I think, had a ton to do with the Expos, because we had a guy on who was the general manager for was it Jamestown
Tarp Skunks? Yeah,
Jamestown Tarp Skunks, the general manager for the Jamestown Tarp Skunks. Yes,
yeah, his father.
That's awesome.
His name was Frank Fanning, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, my dad was Jim Fanning.
Oh really?
We ended up talking a lot about the Expos that night.
Yeah. And he's a young guy. I don't think he's 30.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He's like 13 or something.
And Jim Fannin his father was born in 1927.
So I have a question about this X-ray thing. Are they building a new stadium, or is it still kind of on paper? Because I'm also having a conversation. Go ahead.
They've got an area picked out, but they're not going to go. It sounds like it's the old catch-22. Well, we're not going to give you a team unless you have a stadium. Well, we're not going to build a stadium unless you give us a team.
I was talking to Tim Capper in the chat, and he was like, and he asked, the question is, does Tampa play at the Big O before a 35K seat stadium is built? And how long will it take to build the new stadium at Peel Basin? That's what he said.
Peel Basin would be awesome because it's about a 10-minute stagger from the bar area on Crescent Street downhill, and after that, it's probably about a 20-minute walk up to the bar scene. So it's close to the metro station, the main metro station, the subway station in Montreal. All the hotels are right there. It would be a remarkable spot for a ballpark. I don't know what you do for parking. You probably have to buy an adjacent lot or knock something down to put up some parking, or you just make sure that people take the subway to get down there. It's right on a highway. It's a pretty interesting spot to put the stadium, and I've seen sort of the artist's rendering, and it would be just dynamite.
And Tim Capper also wants to know, how do you decide which team you want to make it? The marquee matchups, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays. Do you have them play the games up in Montreal? Or do you have them play the games in Tampa? Because I don't think either city would want to lose the marquee games there.
Well, does Tampa Bay draw? Anybody?
Yeah, a lot of Red Sox fans go down.
They draw
Tampa.
A lot of Red Sox. Okay, well, they would also go to Montreal.
We would go to Montreal more, I think.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah,
if the Expos would go into the American League East, you'd have Toronto, which would be drivable. You have Boston, which is drivable. You have New York, which is drivable. So, from a standpoint of even visiting fans, hey, let's go to a road game. Well, let's go out to Montreal for a weekend and see what that's all about. I think
Twist
it'd be
my
a curiosity. You're right on the Vermont border, basically.
Twist
So
my
we
arm
have
for
all
that one.
kinds
Yeah.
of Red Sox fans. Sorry, Paul?
I said twist my arm on that one. Huh? Yeah, absolutely.
A great road trip. So, as opposed to back when they were in the National League East back in the day with St. Louis, Pittsburgh would be a bit of a hike, but was doable. Philly's another hike. But for New York and Boston fans, piece of cake.
Yeah, no, that would
And
be
so many in that area.
The last thing that I read, now I don't remember where I read it exactly, but they were talking, it was saying that they would start the season in Tampa and finish in Montreal.
You have to
But
call them the Snowbirds.
I can't imagine. Like, I mean, I guess to me, it's just posturing. It's just a way either to get a stadium in Tampa or to get out, right? Because I can't see, like, even in Tampa, like, your draw games are not in April, right? Your draw games are still in the summer. Indoors, which, you know what? I've been a bunch of times, and indoors in Tampa in July or August is just fine with me.
It is.
The AC is a welcome thing.
The massive thunderstorms also. Nice route there. So,
but there you go. That would be the ultimate rivalry: is the Montreal fans and the Tampa fans pointing at each other, saying, "Your stadium's worse. No, your stadium's worse. No, your stadium's worse."
Oakland says, "Hold my beer."
And Tim just added, "How would the playoffs work?"
Yeah, that could happen easily.
That could.
Yeah.
So wait, so is the end goal to eventually move them full time to Montreal? Like,
I think you're just dipping their toe in the water to see what's there,
and
exploiting the fans in Montreal to try to keep the team in Tampa Bay. To be honest.
I can see.
Oh wow. Would the MLB be considerate to? It's a dumb question, to give Montreal their own franchise back, considering the narrative is well Montreal's fault that they left, and it's not the case at all.
If and I've said this often, the next home game that a Montreal team not named the X-Rays, but a true Montreal franchise plays at home, it'll take a handgun to keep me away. I've been really depressed that I haven't been able to get to a preseason game when they were there, like honoring Gary Carter or having the 81 team guys come back with Hawk and Rock and all of those guys. And I will admit it got very, very dry in the room when I was watching those pre-game ceremonies on television when the Blue Jays were playing there. Just brought back so many memories and just made the hurt of losing that team even deeper. And seeing those preseason games with 45, 50,000 people there, that lets me know that there's a lot of Expos fans in there that desperately want a team back.
Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think what's kind of lost in the whole equation is that when from a Tampa perspective, we as in not people who live in Tampa think Tampa and it's this spot. But really, like there is a lot of animosity just in St. Petersburg versus Tampa the city versus all of these other places. And the lease is such that it states that they got to play at Tropicana Field. And they can't go to Tampa. They can't build in Tampa. They can't build in Ybor City or anywhere else. And I mean, that goes way back to St. Petersburg not getting the Lightning, not getting the Bucks, right? It's this very have not kind of dichotomy, almost like a rivalry, like a Calgary Edmonton, right? Edmonton gets a new arena and Calgary's like, wait a second, we need a new arena too. But it's closer to the point where they can't both have an arena, let alone like either Tampa's getting the ballpark or St. Petersburg getting the ballpark. So, there's a whole lot of politics going on, and building the dome there is like the politics behind that is fascinating.
Perfect world. Tampa keeps its team and Montreal gets an expansion team. As an Expos fan, I know what it did to rip that team away from that city, and I would not wish that on the diehard Tampa Bay Ray fans. We've seen that movie and it hurts, and I've seen what happened to the fans in Hartford, and that ripped their soul out to see the Whalers move to Carolina. So you don't want to see that happen. Nordiques fans know what that's all about as well. So I'd love to see Tampa keep its team, but I'd love to see Montreal have a team, but not at their expense. But if worse comes to worse and Tampa shows it's not ready to keep its team, sign me up. Moving north.
All right, so our intended topic tonight was not
Say so, Canadian football.
So
Dave's got the Argo hat on tonight.
I'm ready.
Vintage.
I'm ready.
All right,
Vintage. Wow.
So should I lateral it off to you, Dave?
Sure. I don't even know, Mike. Were you working for the Argos the last time you were on with us, or I think you might have still been in the. I think you might have still been on the radio.
July 8, 2018. That's when I started with the Argo.
Okay, so what can you tell us about how it's been in Argo land, like maneuvering through like COVID and having the nothing for a whole year and the slow kind of I would say kind of a slow build to the point where we're just about at normal-ish situation kind of coming up.
It was tough because the team was coming off back-to-back 4 and 14 seasons, and you don't have to be a math major to know that's not good. And we brought in the legendary for the Americans, a guy named Michael Clemens, Pinball Clemens, who played up here. He was 5'5", still is, but 5'5". He was a running back returner. Has more combined yards than anybody in pro football history. 25,000 as a receiver, returner, and running back. It's insane. And as great a player as he was, he's basically a saint off the field. He's one of those guys with his Pinball Clemens Foundation and the $1 Million Smile, and he's the ultimate athlete in terms of marketing and trying to get people to watch your sport. If he played in a major U.S. city for a lengthy period of time, he would be a god, and still is. Even people that don't like the Argos in our town just go, Pinball Clemens, he's great. So he takes over as general manager after very late, rather, in the 2019 season. Wholesale changes. We go nuts on free agency day, and our draft is good, and we can't wait for the 2020 season to begin, and it doesn't happen. So, the guys in the football operations staff are still doing what they have to do. They're scouting. They're trying to, talk to guys who aren't under contract and assessing what we have, what we need. Then 2021 comes along. Same thing. Whole new free agency thing. So this season was a buildup of, almost 2 years of what's this beast going to look like with Mike Clemens and new head coach. We brought in 75 roughly new guys. It's almost a complete roster overhaul, and we've been pretty good so far. 5-3. All of our losses are on the road, and they're in the 3 toughest buildings in the league to win in against 3 really good teams. And it's on the field, things have been going great. So we got to get some more bums in the seats. That's obvious. But from easing guys back in, and we're still under pretty tight COVID restrictions in the CFL. Today's a day off for me after a game day. I had to drive back in from Whitby to downtown Toronto, which is about 45 minutes, closer to an hour with traffic today, to get a COVID shot. Not COVID shot, but a COVID test. They do the swab, and then back in the car and go home again. So we're doing that 2-3 times a week, depending on when the games are. And we're still batting down, and nobody can go into a bar. It's just we're trying to get through the season.
So last night's game was in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
So were you at Tim Hortons Field calling the game, or are you calling from a monitor? Or?
Yeah, we were at Tim Hortons Field, and I get there early enough and make sure the door is closed, and wearing masks when we're out in the hallway, and everybody in the building now has to be double vaxxed, whether you're a fan, a player, sorry, not players because it's a CBA thing, but coaches, staff, fans, officials, people working on the TV side, everybody has to be double vaxxed or you don't get in.
Yeah, that was something I sure noticed this year about the Blue Jays and their broadcast is you could really tell when they weren't there, and they were calling it from the monitor. I mean, even they had a few times where they'd have one guy. Well, Pat Tabler, he was calling from Cincinnati, and Buck Martinez is calling the same game in Florida, and neither of them are at the game, and they're both looking at monitors, and they're both far away. And like the last homestand or two when they had Tabler in the building and Shulman in the building, it was like night and day. It was like, wow, this is really what it should be like again.
Yeah, and you could say it would be difficult just for the choreography, right, between play-by-play guy and color guy.
Absolutely.
Because a lot
Yankees
of times
broadcast.
eye contact, right? Like it's okay, I got something to say, or you'll hold up your hand saying I've got a follow-up line here or something like that. And I don't know how you'd call football because you wouldn't be able to see the secondary on TV. You're just watching the quarterback because that's all TV focuses in on until he hands the ball off or throws it. So you don't know what coverage is. You don't know if somebody's open downfield. You can't see a play develop. For Dan and Buck and Pat, less so Pat because he's not the play-by-play guy, but high fly ball. Okay, you can't follow the track of the ball. Is it looking foul? You don't know. You're looking at an outfielder run. So it's things you don't think about going from television to radio that would be really, really difficult. And when they were doing the simulcast, which personally I just don't think works in any sport.
It was bad.
It's really tough sledding for the announcers. And I listened to a few games just to see how it worked on radio, and I thought they did a pretty good job because it was Dan especially has a radio background, so he's very cognizant of setting up pitch location and stuff like that, which would kind of be goofy if you're watching the game on TV because you can see the pitch location. But Dan just did it so seamlessly; it really, really worked.
Yeah, you sure notice that like on radio, it's like, and when it's a simulcast, you're like, oh, if it's okay on radio, you're like, wow, they're going to be talking way too much on TV, and vice versa, right? If they're just talking a little bit, you're like, what's going on if you're listening to the radio? And that was
on TV, you never have to say the score.
Yeah,
right. You don't have to say what the count is because it's on the bug. It's up on the screen, and I remember the first time I heard a simulcast on radio was Rick Jenneret with the Buffalo Sabres, and he was calling a TV game on radio, and I didn't know what the score was for about 15 minutes in the car. I just didn't. It was very frustrating.
Yeah.
And Rick is going to call the game for television. There are more people watching television than there are listening to radio. So I never blamed the play-by-play guy for doing that, but as a listener, it can be very frustrating.
Well, CFL kind of toyed with that. Like CFL, Argos. I know
we
that.
Do it. Yeah, we do
Argos
it. It's not a great situation.
It was like
first to admit that, but it's tough. And I imagine because I'm always watching the games, I'm not in the car for them. I imagine there are times when it's frustrating not knowing the score, but whomever is calling the game on television nationally doesn't care about the local radio broadcast, and that's unfortunate, but that's where we are right now.
So Argonauts are the latest of the group to join Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. You've been around the Argos, not necessarily working for them for forever, but I mean you've been around the Argos forever. How has joining MLSE benefited the team?
First, you have stable ownership with deep pockets. That's very important. The thing that I think it's overlooked is how many things that we're able to share with other teams. Our social marketing team, social media team, and the stuff that we put out video-wise, I'll put up with any team in sports. And I'm not just saying that. I think that Adam Kruger and the guys behind the scenes do a ridiculously good job of putting out content and making it funny and current and very sarcastic at times. And it's very well done. But our hype videos are fantastic. And we're sharing resources with the Leafs and the Raptors and TFC and 905 and the Marlies, all of the teams under the MLSE umbrella. And it's really worked out well. And, you know, we have people a very wide array of people in the marketing department. And it's stuff that, you know, if you were to just think back a few years ago, that just wouldn't be the case. And, you know, because not every owner has the resources that MLSE does. It's a deep staff with spectacularly talented people. And, you know, I think we're putting out really good content to try and get people to come to the games. And now it's just people wanting to come to the games. Everybody we talk to has a great time. This year we're undefeated at home. I haven't heard a negative thing about people who have gone to a game. It's just getting them to go. And then the people who went and had a good time, it seems it's even more difficult to get them to come back, which doesn't make much sense. So
I have one, I don't know, maybe negative. Is it a negative? I don't know. Went to, I was at the game where they beat the Alouettes.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, that cannon just scares the crap out of me.
But we have a nautical theme as the Argonauts, and even though there were no cannons on the when Jason and the Argonauts were going after the Golden Fleece, we shoot off a cannon after a touchdown, and it's loud. And there were some really funny fan reaction videos going around of people jumping when the cannon was shot off. So well, I'm really glad, Dave, that you were able to hear it, because if we don't shoot it off, that means we haven't scored. That's
very true. We were probably 2 sections away from it, and I knew it was coming, and it still scared the crap out of me. It's for you guys who have been to Columbus, see Blue Jackets. It's very, very similar to what they've got there. Maybe a little louder because it's outdoors. I'm not sure, but yeah, you definitely jumping. I guess another one of the big changes over time has been, of course, the move from Rogers Center to BMO, and maybe before that move actually happened, that was like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Moving outdoors, moving to BMO was going to be the savior. It's a smaller venue, and I'm not sure if it has been. What do you think? Do you think that the Argonauts are better off at BMO versus, not obviously Rogers Center is not an option, but do you think they're better off now than they were when Rogers Center was an option?
I jump in real quick, Mike.
Yeah, please.
Tim Capper, Dave would totally agree with your point. In the chat, he said that the move, let me quote him here, the move to BMO doesn't seem to be helping unless the crowd numbers at Rogers Center were very much inflated.
There were a lot of freebies given out of the Rogers Center. We're not doing that. We want to see what we've got. And handing out thousands of free tickets doesn't really help the value of the ticket going forward. So that's something we're not doing. Back in the day, some of the ownership groups were handing out tickets like Skittles. Like, it was like, here, just come down to the game, because, it was, let's make an event, let's have more. And this is one theory, and I'm not demeaning it because it's a legitimate theory. If we have more people in the building, it looks like more an event. If it's more an event, more people are going to come down. But you're right. The move to BMO Field, which for people who don't know, Toronto is on basically the footprint, although it's perpendicular, of the old exhibition stadium that we were talking to about before we went on air. So it's right down on the water. It's right on the GO line, the rail line. So it can be an easy building to get to if you're coming in the east or the west. Coming in from the north, maybe a little bit more difficult. But it's downtown Toronto, and there's going to be traffic, so that can be a bit of a problem as well. But for those who know the city and they plan and they know how to get there, I live an hour away and I take the GO train in, and boom, it drops me off 30 seconds from the stadium. But it's a great facility. I mean, Dave, I've never sat in the seats for a game, but I've sat basically in every vantage point in the stadium to see what it's like. And there's not a bad seat in that park to watch a football game, and I assume soccer as well.
It's better than sitting in the press box where you're moving from, oh, there's a line, moving this way, moving this way. Yeah, no, it's. I think when they built it, people forgot Exhibition Stadium and forgot that wind whoosh coming through. Yeah. Just have a look at all those championship banners and try and write a review while all those, like, okay, I want to get all the banners like actually looking nice as they're flying all over the place. And that part I think people forgot. I don't know the location. I'm not a downtown Toronto kind of person. I'm not sure. Like,
why not?
The GO train is handy, not cheap, right? Mm-hmm. And if for those that live downtown, I'm not sure if BMO is a great location.
A lot of people in Liberty Village. There are thousands of people in that area. If we could
get a good spot
to games, that would be pretty cool. It's a pretty trendy area, a 5-minute walk from the stadium. But I mean, I live, like I say, an hour away in Whitby, and it's an hour on the GO train. It's less than $10 each way. So if you want to put $20 in for parking, well, there's your parking right there. Mm-hmm. If you got a family, now it becomes a little bit problematic because that's going to add up in a hurry. Yeah. But for a guy like me who just takes in the train by himself, it's $20. So I do that every day, so I'm kind of used to it. But it's when you live in a big city, things aren't cheap, and transit works if you want it to. And for me, it's a piece of cake. It's a 5-minute drive to GO station, and then I go in and I read on the way in, and just relax and let my mind flow for an hour each way. And it's getting caught up on Bob Woodward books.
So during the pandemic, I guess the talk, the rumors, the story that was being pushed, it was pretty much the CFL news, was this possibility of some sort of connection with the fledgling XFL and The Rock. At this point, that's been put to a halt. Press pause. I'm not quite sure exactly where you would say that is. What was your take on that whole idea? And do you think there was any positive that came out of the discussions, the talks, even the rumors, and I think people like us talking about it?
Yeah, I think it's not just the CFL. I mean, we're seeing attendance go down in most major sports right now. People are really enjoying sitting on their couch, and the high def is pretty good. The price of some tickets for some people is just ridiculous now. So there's a price point that has passed some people by. So if you're going to dip your toe in the water just to see what you can do to try and increase attendance, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think if anything positive came out of it for a lot of people there was a very strong resurgence in Canadian pride in terms of what the Canadian Football League is. And a lot of people got their backs up majorly when there was talk of, well, do we go to 4 downs on a big field? And a lot of people went, no, why would we do that? Let's keep the big field and keep 3 downs. Let's keep the single point. That's part of the uniqueness of Canadian football. If we go to strictly NFL rules and become truly a feeder system for the NFL, the uniqueness of the product is gone. Some people would say that's a good thing. Many more, I think, would say that's a bad thing. So, I'm a fan of both leagues equally. I love the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm an Eagles fanatic, and I love the Toronto Argonauts even before I worked for them. And to me, it's always been equal. My passion for the Argos and my passion for the Eagles equal. Now it's a little more one-sided that I work for the Argonauts, but
can't imagine why.
But here's and I'll put this in for you guys in the States. Maybe you'll relate to this a little bit more. You can go to a high school game on a Friday night, and it's a rivalry game, and you can have a great time. And you can look at that and you can say, South High is playing North High. And I went and I had a great time. And maybe a couple of these guys are going to go on and play NCAA, and I'm going to remember them. And it was a really good experience, and the crowd got into it. Then on Saturday, you can go watch State University play A&M State University, and you can have a great time. And you can enjoy that game the same way that you did the high school game, even though two players in the high school game are going to go play in the NCAA. And then on Sunday, you can go watch your local team play another NFL team and enjoy it just as much as you enjoyed the college game and just as much as you enjoyed the high school game, even though you know that the high school game is a long way in caliber from the NFL. What I love the most about the CFL NFL thing is I can watch two really good pro leagues in the same weekend, and the rules and strategy are totally different. So I'm getting this overload of, okay, I can watch the Eagles on Sunday, but I can watch the Argos on Friday, and they're two great games and totally different. And to me, as a football fanatic, I think that's just candy.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's people that say, I love high school football. I like it better than college or better than pro. And there's people that here in Indiana say, I hate the NFL. Just give me college. But, I totally agree with that. That setup there, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. You got your three levels of football there. I never understood why these two leagues could actually merge, because these are technically two different codes of football. And I may be throwing myself out there with this comparison, but you have Gaelic football in Ireland and Australian rules football in Australia. And when they play each other, they have to have a new set of rules called the International Rules Series. So if the XFL and the CFL really want to get together, they're going to have to make some hybrid football of the two codes and present that, which I think will be far too much with what they're really trying to do. So I think Dave had mentioned it that, The Rock has a lot of money and the CFL has that history, and maybe this is just a good PR stunt to get some Canadian pride back into things. But I mean, I would love to see the XFL just come back to life. There's no guarantee that's going to be
but
a
the other
slam
thing
dunk.
is, what does Dwayne Johnson do as well as anybody on the planet? Marketing.
Well, yeah, that
like
too.
We all know who The Rock is. He does something like he's brilliant in terms of his business plan. He's a wrestler who has made himself into a multi-billion-dollar movie star. And he's always able to keep himself in the news in a positive light. And I don't know why anybody in business, whether it be professional sports or a local car dealer, why they wouldn't want to try and find out why Dwayne Johnson has been as successful as he has been, because everything that dude touches, XFL aside for now, has turned to gold. Like he's a really interesting study, and I don't know why you wouldn't at least go and kick the tires and see what he's thinking in terms of marketing, especially when you're trying to get a younger fan base as a league.
But have we found out any other information since the last time we talked about it on here, Dave? Has there been any?
There's a stinky little rumor floating around that the Argonauts are buying their time and they're going to leave the CFL and join the XFL when it happens.
What?
Yeah, no, I've heard that too. Which that makes more sense than combining the two leagues. However, isn't there a rule in Canada where you can't be in a competing football league?
Well, Mike,
there was a case. I don't know how old you guys are. In the 70s, there was a football league called the World Football League.
Yeah.
And what was the team in Chicago? The Fire?
Yeah, Chicago Fire and the Chicago Winds. They actually have two names.
No, the Toronto was.
I think they were
franchise.
The Memphis. They moved. I think they moved to Memphis.
Yes, they did. They were going to be the Toronto Northmen.
Southmen.
And they became the Memphis Southmen. But what did the Argos do? What did the Northmen do to try and get attention? They signed Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, and Paul Warfield.
That's right.
And it was like, oh, this league is not messing around here. And that was like 5 years after the Argos signed Joe Theismann. and he played up here before he went down to Washington. But it went to the government, and the government actually blocked it, saying that the CFL, I can't remember the term. If I had known you were going to go there, I would have looked this up. But the minister's name was Mark Lalonde, and he would not let Toronto get a team in this league because it was in direct competition with the Canadian Football League. So it was protected.
And keep in mind that the owner of the Toronto Northmen was John Bassett, who was a Canadian, a very well connected Canadian. I mean, his dad, John Bassett Sr., he owned a newspaper. He used to own the Argonauts. So it wasn't like, somebody from down south said, "Hey, let's put a football team there." No, it was a homegrown
documentary
guy.
On the 30 for 30 on the USFL, John Bassett's name is all over that. He bought Tampa, became like the most respected owner in the league, and there was an infamous letter that he sent to Donald Trump. Yeah, and that was Bassett. And I didn't realize until a year or two ago that John Bassett was almost best friends with Bobby Kennedy. I found a picture of Bobby Kennedy at an Argo game, not too far. I think it was '67, and John Bassett delivered one of the eulogies at Kennedy's funeral.
Really?
I did not know that. Wow.
And Bobby Kennedy was at an Argos game.
Yes, the year before he was shot.
I rather like this sport.
I don't understand the 3 downs. It's a lot of action.
I like how they score extra points.
There's a great shot of him standing up and just screaming at the field, like he was really getting into it.
Wow.
So it was sitting, and Bassett sitting there kind of with his arms like this.
Don't make me.
Yeah, no. And Martin Short was on the other side rooting for the Tiger Cats, right? He's a bit.
Tim says the Ottawa Rough Riders did the same with the Arena Football League in 1992 in an exhibition.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
there you go.
Good for them.
Now, if anybody knows Arena Football, it's Tim.
I would not debate that with Tim.
Is it the Canadian Football Act? Is that what it was called?
I don't think so.
No idea.
Felt would hurt the Riders, so played in Hull, Quebec City instead of Ottawa. Laughable, if you ask me. That's from Tim.
Yeah. Talk about different products. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, finally Baker got his passport. He's coming up at some point.
We'll see. We'll see if they let Americans in.
Sell it. Why? A 2-part question. Why should Paul Baker come and see a CFL game? And second, maybe linked, what is the best Canadian football rule?
Ooh. Okay, I'll sell the game first. We sell beer for $5 at the game, and in American money, that's like 38.
There.
I'm there.
That's like 38 cents American. So you can come and you can really enjoy yourself.
And that's Canadian beer.
And remember, I'm a guy who loves the NFL.
You mean Superior beer?
Yes, Superior beer.
Yes, I said that. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're coming to a game, and like I said, I love going to the link or somewhere to watch an NFL game or a college game. I think that the TV presentation of the NFL is unsurpassed. It is an event. It is spectacular with the overhead cameras and the 48 cameras they seem to have at every game and the super slow-mo and all of the bells and whistles. I think that the NFL is a spectacular TV product. Going to a game live, though, here's what I hate about the NFL. And there's a touchdown, and let's take a television timeout.
We're going to sit here for 20 minutes now.
And here's the kickoff after the touchdown. And if the drive was more than 3 plays long, let's take another television timeout. So you're sitting there for 2 minutes at a time with nothing to do way too often. I think that the flow for a fan going to a CFL game is 1,000 times better than going to an American game. And it's got nothing to do with the on-field product. It's got everything to do with the television timeouts. Paul, if you come up here, you're going to see a CFL game is going to fly by if you go live.
It drives me crazy, the timeouts. Every reason.
I try to get back.
I'm going to be pretty drunk. I'm going to be honest with you.
Good.
I tried to get back into the NFL last year because coronavirus and nothing else to watch sometimes, and I couldn't do it. My ADD. I was like, another commercial. I got to do something else. Goodbye. I'll see you later. Like I tried to watch more than just Eagles games, and I was like, nah, I can't.
God forbid there's a
I can't
replay.
Dave,
I
physically, you don't understand. It's a mental illness. I can't sit there physically and take it. I gotta go. This is too much. I gotta do something else.
And as for rules, I'll give you one that's got the same sort of idea behind it. I talked to, and it was off the record, so I won't use his name, but he was a guy who had been a multi-year starter in the NFL who came to Canada, and he was not getting it. He was just struggling mightily. And I said, what is it? Like, I know you've got more here. Why are you having a trouble adjusting to the game? And he said, it's that damn 20-second clock. He said, I'm used to getting the play call in my helmet, calling the play in the huddle, going up to the line, looking over the defense, making the adjustment, calling out an audible. And he said, more times than not, I'd just get up there. I'd be ready to call out the audible. I'd look at the 20-second clock, and it was at 2. So it was the pace of the game. So our guys are used to kind of getting in the huddle, getting out quick, boom, boom, boom. Let's get the play started. If it goes to that 21st second, you got a 5-yard penalty coming up. I last 3 minutes, loss it down.
I want to defend myself a little bit, Dave. That's unfair. It's egregious in the NFL. It's terrible TV.
No, it's bad.
I don't understand how anybody could sit there for hours and have their friends over and watch all that.
No,
I know
if you're there, and the officials have to do a replay, a replay judgment or whatever, you're literally sitting there. And there's nothing. It's so bad.
Stop it.
I would have, but Mike, I would have never guessed the clock. I would have never guessed. I mean, my favorite, no yards penalty.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
And the timing is like if you kick the ball out of bounds before it's inside the 20 on a punt, it's a penalty, 10-yard penalty. You are encouraged to kick the ball in play, and you have to return it essentially. So I mean, some of the best plays in CFL history are on returns. And the other thing is the timing. Opening week Eagles game, they had no timeouts left with 2 minutes left, and we watched 2 minutes of game go by with a guy taking a knee, and then taking a knee, and then taking a knee, and then taking a knee. In the CFL, there could have been 3 possession changes.
Yeah. Well, I think like fair catch. Sorry, Mark. I think like fair catch. I mean, you got the book right behind you. You're the Rocket. Like the CFL was perfect for Rocket Ishmael. Can you imagine the number of fair catches that he would have had? Like if he, well, I'm sure he did have them when he went to the Raiders, but no fair catch. Gotta give him 5 yards, and then boom.
There's a great story in this book about Ishmael, and at camp they wanted to time all the receivers in the 40, and everybody was okay. Let's see what this guy's all about, because that was the big thing about him at Notre Dame, was just how fast he was. And don't forget, he signed here. He was going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And the night before the draft, he signed with Toronto. And they announced it that morning.
Yeah.
Oops. So they're saying, okay, we got to see this. The players all come out. He runs it on grass, right? This is in training camp. And the 3 guys have the old stopwatches. Go. Boom. Okay, what do you have? Because everybody's kind of looking at the clock. No,
Like,
what
this
do you
can't
have?
be right.
No. You go first. What do you have? And the consensus was that on grass, he ran a 4.2. On grass.
Okay.
That's how fast Rocket is.
Wowzers.
Yeah, he was ridiculously fast. And
Yes.
perfect for the wide field. The famous touchdown he scored in a Grey Cup, where a guy actually threw a beer can at him as he was going into the end zone.
Best
was on a
story
pickup.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just,
whole chapter.
yes.
A whole chapter on finding the dude that threw the beer can. Amazing.
You mean a Philadelphia fan drove up to Toronto and threw a beer can on the field?
That was in Winnipeg. I
That
think,
was in
right?
Winnipeg.
Oh, Winnipeg.
Nice.
Excuse me.
Frigid
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
How dare he?
Minus
And
19 at kickoff.
Yeah.
No,
Now-
thank you.
How is Rocket remembered in Toronto 30 years later?
He's remembered as a guy that brought a lot of sizzle to a really good steak.
Okay.
He was special in terms of on the field. And then at the end of the first year, he got bored. Like he wanted to go to the NFL, even though he was making 7 figures more than Joe Montana was. He was the highest paid player in football. He was making, I believe, 4 times what Jerry Rice was making. I think Rice was making $1 million, and Rocket's contract was for 4.
He took a significant pay cut to go
back to the NFL. Yeah.
Okay.
But people who are Argo fans remember 1991 so fondly because of that, and even more so the co-ownership of John Candy, who is a legend in this city. If there's a statue of anybody in town, it would be him. And the
Rightfully
fact that,
so.
yeah, he was so damn passionate. He grew up in Toronto wanting to be an Argo. He blew out his knee, and his second career choice was acting. I think it worked out okay.
Kind of like The Rock.
Yeah, so he wanted, he bought in, he lost a lot of money,
Yeah.
but let's say the Argos were playing in Winnipeg on a Friday night. Candy got in his private jet, flew out to Winnipeg on a Wednesday, did every morning radio show, did every television show, did every print show, would take fans out to the bar, he was just there to sell the league. And, after the game, he would fly back to Toronto. He would say to the coach, who are your 4 best players? And those 4 players would get on the jet with Candy and fly back with him to Toronto after the game. And often Candy would just switch pilots and then go right to LA. He was all in. If he had to go to LA, he just loved the Toronto Argonauts.
Mm-hmm.
And he wore his heart on his sleeve. And that's why so many Argo fans remember him with nothing but fondness.
Probably three great John Candy Argonaut pictures. The one I think it's on the cover of the book actually with he's got the Grey Cup and rockets on his back.
Right, yeah.
The one where he's holding the helmet up. But I think the one that really sort of defines John Candy as an Argonaut owner is where he's carrying the injured player off.
Oh yeah, I've seen that picture. Yeah.
That one really tells you everything right there.
It's just
the story was Carl Brazeley got hurt. There were 2 players got hurt on the same play. And, Brazeley's looking up, he doesn't see the trainer, and he looks up, and John Candy has run out onto the field to see if he was okay and to help him off the field. How many owners do that?
None.
Robert Kraft does that every weekend.
How many owners could do that?
Mark
Jerry
Cuban,
Jones
maybe.
would pay somebody to do it, but
Wow.
Yeah, Jerry Jones gets his son-in-law to clean his glasses for him, and John Candy's out with
John
the training
Middleton.
staff.
John Middleton just takes a
There's
picture
the-
of his douchebag kid in the dugout. Sorry, I'm still
showing the
triggered.
guys here, at least I know this is audio, but there's a picture of Rocket jumping on
Oh,
John
yeah.
Candy's back.
We got I've seen that
Amazing.
picture.
Amazing.
That was a hell of a year. Paul Wood's book is spectacular, by the way. Even if you know
Fantastic.
nothing about it, how the Candy and Wayne Gretzky and Bruce McNall ownership group came together, it's a really neat story.
The only way I could have liked John Candy more is if he actually was in Ghostbusters like he was supposed to be. But then we wouldn't have Rick Moranis. So it's like.
And one of my favorite guilty pleasures is Going Berserk. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is so politically incorrect, but so damn funny.
Yes. I miss. It's weird, the John Candy thing, even because he was in movies that were I was too young to see when I was growing up, in the mid to late 80s. But then that cartoon came out.
Camp Candy.
Camp Candy came out in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was on right
89.
after. Of course, you would know the year. Of course. It came on right after Ghostbusters.
I'll tell you why. Okay, go ahead.
No, that was it. That was my John Candy exposure. Then as I grew up, you started watching the stuff. Oh, this is where that's where that guy from the cartoon came from.
Yeah, he actually did a Saturday preview where he appears on the same stage with the cast by Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Never do that. It was oh, this is great. Zach and John Candy and Screech.
He would do interstitials. He'd do the voice. John Candy put in time into everything he did. That's the point. Like, he was involved in this cartoon. It's crazy.
And while you guys stateside were watching SNL, and it was just kind of when SNL was starting to go from the original
I know
not
where
ready for primetime players,
No,
we had
SCTV.
SCTV. We won.
We
Yes.
had that too in New England. We
Yes,
got it.
you-
They
You,
did.
you got it later on when it came on to NBC, but
Yeah, we had
the
a
old
different
stuff
version.
that they just did in Canada was just
Hold
that series.
You had
was
Tony
amazing.
Rosado.
Hold on, wait.
Tony Rosado.
Wait. I was all about SNL for years, and then like I'd start staying up late as you get older, and SCTV started getting reruns like real late at night American TV, and
Yeah.
it was I recognized everybody. Catherine O'Hara,
I know.
everybody was on. Eugene
Martin
Levy,
Short, John Candy,
and Martin
Joe
Short,
Flynn.
all these people I would recognize from
Levy.
all these movies I watched, and I'm like, what am I watching SNL from the 90s?
Oh, what a cast!
for?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, John Candy, they wanted to bring him on for the 81-82 season, and
Glad
I
he
don't
told
know
him
what-
no.
And he did. I don't know why he didn't get.
Who?
I don't know what the Catherine
What's the-
O'Hara too. They wanted. To bring
Who's
on.
the cast member that does the Anne Murray impression?
Anne Murray, Andrea Martin.
Yes, Andrea Martin. I will look that up once a month to watch that sketch because it makes me laugh to this day.
I don't remember that.
Oh, please
Anne
look up.
Murray? Okay. I'll
Yeah,
look
there's
that
an Anne Murray SCTV sketch, and it's just like it's sort of. It's
Well,
terrible. She's
there's
got
another-
poor posture and everything. It's hilarious.
There's another
dude.
sketch that reminds me of Celebrity Jeopardy on SNL years later.
Listen, Canada's
Half-Wits.
better, is what I'm saying.
What's it called?
Halfwits.
Halfwits, exactly. That is almost the same skit, except done
Except-
20 some
it's
years
20 years
earlier.
ago.
Except 20 years later.
with high school students as opposed to celebrities.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just classic stuff.
It's so good. It's just you wouldn't if I always told my friends, I'm like, if you watched this, you wouldn't watch the reruns of the hour-long reruns on E or whatever they were rerunning the SNL crap.
The sketch that was probably the most popular in Canada, certainly for a while, was the Mackenzie Brothers, and we had different rules in terms of commercials, right?
Yeah.
You guys were allowed to run more commercials in the States than we were. So they came and they were going, guys, we need another 2 minutes per show. And they said, why don't we do something Canadian? And one of, I don't know which, if it was Dave Thomas or Rick Moranis said, well, what, you want to just have guys sitting around eating back bacon and drinking beer and smoking? And it was like, yes. And that's how the Mackenzie Brothers came up. It was a filler because they needed to fill up the time that they couldn't run on commercials in the U.S.
Let me tell you a little bit of something about my wife. Well, she's practically my wife. We get married soon. Big SCTV fan. Big Strange Brew fan. And for those who don't know, Strange Brew is the Mackenzie Brothers movie. And I had not seen it until 3 years ago. I got a Blu-ray release. There's no movie like this. This movie should not exist. This movie should not exist. But like this movie should fail, right? On all fronts. If it was any American, if it was in a SNL movie, this would have bombed. I mean, it did bomb.
It's not a good movie, but it's our good movie.
Right.
It's not a bad movie.
No, I legitimately love it
Cult
because
classic.
Max von Sydow plays the villain straight up like Max von Sydow should. And you're like, I want him to get hurt at the end of this movie. I hate this prick. He has that mustache and the hockey scenes, which I always forget that happened in this movie. And then
They
I'm
were
like,
bad.
oh yeah, the hockey stuff. It's so bad. Good. It's so good. Bad. Anybody listening, if you've not watched Strange Brew, legitimately, you will watch this and go, oh, okay, I get it.
Oh, when Max von Sydow showed up in that Star Wars movie, you know, up here we were like, that's the dude from Strange
From
Brew.
Strange Brew. Yeah, for me, it's Exorcist, it's Ghostbusters.
Never say never again, right?
Never Say Never Again, Ghostbusters 2, and yeah, those there was another one I forgot. Oh, and Flash Gordon. Ming the Merciless, man.
Yeah, that's right.
But he did the voice of Vigo, and that's where I got connected to it. But Mel Blanc is their parent, is their father at the beginning.
I forgot about that. Oh
Right,
my-
it's just they
I gotta
just
see this movie again. It's been a while.
dude. They just went like this. They said, "What can we find?" Such a great
I remember
movie.
I hadn't watched it in like 20 years, and it came on like 10 years ago. I said, "Oh my God, I've got to watch this." And my old condo, I didn't realize this. It was the movie. Some of the exteriors were like a block away from my condo.
That's
So I'm going,
awesome.
this is hilarious.
It's legitimately so. You know how you talk. You know what? That's a bit. Never mind. I was gonna say it's a better movie than Slapshot, but I'm gonna get killed by somebody saying that.
They have to save Kitchener. That's the whole thing. They have to save Kitchener because the tainted beers go to Oktoberfest.
Exactly.
Such a good movie. It's such a bad good movie.
Take it back.
Yes, it's a bad good movie.
It's a bad good movie.
Like Going Berserk. If you like Strange Brew, the Candy movie Going Berserk, Eugene Levy and Joe Flaherty are in it, and it's hysterical.
This is a Canadian episode, Paul. Real quick before we go, I just take off, eh? Exactly, Tim. Take off, eh? I say that sometimes now when I'm mad because I've watched that movie so many times. I'm like, take off. It's so Rick. I want to take this time since we're talking about Strange Brew. We were on the John Candy thing. Rick Moranis is an international treasure. And I know I'm going to bring it back to Ghostbusters real quick. He makes that character because I talked about that was the character John Candy was going to play. For those who don't know, John Candy was originally going to be Louis Tully, the guy that gets possessed by the terror dog in Ghostbusters. And then John Candy told them, I guess he didn't really want to do the movie, so he told them, I want to be German and I want to have 2 German shepherds. And it was like, well, we already have 2 dogs in this movie. It can't be so like Rick Moranis will do it. Rick Moranis steals every scene he's in, and that's hard to do when you're on the screen with Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, and Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis.
I think the line my wife still asks me to do every once in a while because it makes her giggle is, "Who brought the dog?"
Okay, who brought the dog?
Yeah.
When he's just going on and on at the beginning of that party about the price of salmon from Nova Scotia, and the difference between the generic and the and the brand name Aleve or Advil. I just
saves them 29 cents per package, you know.
Yeah, Rick Moranis is a god. A god.
Are you saying that instead of Rick Moranis, they would have had like Schmengi as in Ghostbusters?
Yeah, there was gonna be. They offered it to John Candy.
He wants to be a German guy. Schmengi.
I want to be
in Schmengi.
I want Schmengi.
I want to be German and have 2 German shepherds. I was like, well, we have the dogs. That doesn't make. Goodbye, John. Just click. See you later, dude.
Oh man.
Do we know why he turned that down?
No, I actually don't know. I think he was just busy, and he was like, he just goofed around and said, "I want to do this and this." They were like, "No, get out of here. Get somebody else." Paul, take it back quick.
All right, Mike, we got to thank you for coming on Dave's worst nightmare of a show because we did not stick to the script at all tonight, and.
Yeah, but it was all Canadian when it went off the rails.
But I thank you for that, man. I loved it.
But we went from the Expos to Ghostbusters.
I do want to bring up one more thing from before that I did want to mention that Tim and Greg were talking about in the chat.
Take it, Paul. No, I'm grabbing it.
No, I forgot, and I promised these guys I'd mention it. This is on topic. Back with we were talking about the XFL, CFL thing, where Greg said, "Hear me out. What about Arena Canadian football? Field is 55 yards instead of 50, and you have all the weird Canadian rules." And Tim Capper came in and said the idea was floated, but it was small money, and that blew my mind. That was a thing that was absolutely considered.
We had the Toronto Phantoms up here, for like 2 years, early '90s.
Blowing my mind here. I didn't know that.
There you go.
2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a cool logo. It was a Grim Reaper. It was not your typical logo.
Paul, take it back, quick.
How does that compare?
We are talking about Canadian.
London Knights were Jack the Ripper, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have the Grim Reaper?
No, that was the baseball team.
That's what I'm talking about.
The London
Rippers. Not the London
Rippers.
Knights.
The Rippers. Yeah.
London Knight. That was the Frontier League team, right?
The Werewolves of London was a baseball.
That was a great name. Fantastic. I have video of me at that game running around the bases and
nice.
Help.
Which means I wasn't in shape 20 some years ago. Okay.
All right. So, Mike, you want to let our listeners know if they want to talk anything Canadian with you after the show? Where can they find you?
Mike Hogan Argos on Twitter. I'll respond to basically everybody. So I always enjoy that connection via social media. That's the easiest way to get me, and I'm on it quite often, probably too much.
And Mike, I'm so glad that you got my Buck Henry reference.
Oh man, that's just
so we'll see you. We'll see you in 12 months then, right?
Yeah, he was the driest martini ever.
Oh, thanks again for coming on, Mike.
Really enjoyed it, guys.
Great as always.
A lot of fun as always.
So that's all the time. Did you see how I just kind of the last 3 seconds just kind of shook my hand like this? I didn't really do numbers.
It's still to the beat, you know.
I'm so distracted and tired. All right. So that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks once again to Mike Hogan for coming aboard and talking all things Canada. Dan, where can our listeners follow you online?
Dan, everywhere. Dan93. I'm done.
Mark, how about yourself?
Ballpark Hunter on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, MySpace, and on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube. Check out my videos. I got new stuff working on right now for you to view in a few days from now.
And Dave, where can our listeners follow you?
On Twitter and Instagram @ProFan9. I got a Ranger game coming up. It's been a long time since I've been to one of those Kitchener Rangers.
That should be fun.
That's how I feel about the Providence Bruins coming up too. Yeah, first game is Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time, man.
Been the last game was beginning of March for me at the Dunk.
You know what solidified it?
Of 2020.
20. That's right. You know what solidified it for me, Paul, about the AHL? My AHL TV subscription renewed, and I was like, "Oh, thank you! Oh, thank you so much."
Did you have something else there, Dave? I think I cut you off.
No, I'm just excited that I got a Ranger game coming up, and then a couple more football games in the OUA.
Nice. Isn't it nice to be back at games?
Oh, amazing.
And
we're going to be full capacity.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. End of show. Be quiet.
Yeah. And speaking of games, you can follow my Stadium Journeys, 2 different games, on Twitter or Instagram @PuckmanRI. And if you're looking for reviews or information about where to see the games, check out all of our stadium reviews, news items, and stories on our website, stadiumjourney.com, or connect with us on social media. Find us @Stadium Journey. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast if you like this one. Listen to some more. Search HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever podcast app you use. It'll work. I swear. Promise. Video simulcast of all of our podcasts can be found on Stadium Journey's YouTube page and our classic back catalogs. This was our season 5 premiere, so all of our 4 years previously can still be found at vocnation.com. And we stream live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern at twitch.tv/danlaw83. So again, thanks everyone for your support and for listening again tonight. Thanks to Mike Hogan for joining us. So for Dan, Mark, and Dave, I'm Paul, wishing you all safe stadium journeys and close games. Hope to see you on the road real soon.